Hello everybody, this is Helmite here from Grab the Lantern, and today I've decided that instead of my normal article, I'm going to be trying to do something else, and try to do a little bit of, I guess, podcasting is really what I'm going for here, not so much trying to do, video commentary this time around. There might be opportunities for me to do that in the future, but trying to just get my thoughts together and talk about a few things regarding League of Legends, especially because today we had quite a few different topics that I wanted to kind of take a look at. We'll see how this goes the first time around. Please give me comments, let me know how this went for you guys, so you can let me know any changes I might want to make in the future. But for now, we're just going to sit down. I just pulled up some random stream footage of CLG ANX at Worlds, and just want to talk about kind of, especially today, the recent post by Mendler about supports and what could possibly be done to kind of change how they play and kind of fix the support role, so to speak. And, a lot of this is coming from, I think this post was made by Mendler specifically because Riot's finally acknowledged, especially with FlexQ coming out and kind of in testing right now, that their queue systems don't work. And the primary reason for this is because nobody wants to play support, period. We already have this issue with the current way Champ Select works, which is where you can pick two roles and you're guaranteed at least one of them. Well, naturally, there are very, very, very few people choosing support, and if they're not choosing support, then nobody's playing support, which more often than not leads to fill players also having, automatically getting filled into support. And so they decided they said, okay, we're going to change Champ Select, which I said, okay, great. But they changed it so that you can pick two positions, they'll try to get you those positions, but they gave you a role to exclude. And that was a big problem. That entirely negated the whole point of their new queue, because you cannot possibly do that, because what's going to happen is everyone will say, okay, exclude support. And you still have no players playing support, you still have awful queue times, you still have problems with the game. And Mendler kind of made a post about that earlier today, entitled A Few Thoughts on Supports. I will link that somewhere, either in the video or in the article this comes with. And basically he talks about a few reasons why support as a whole is generally not a very liked role, not a very played role. People don't like it, is what I should say. And he listed a few reasons, and I just wanted to kind of run down those real quick and talk about kind of why he's putting those out. I think a lot of them make sense, but we'll discuss it anyways. So first, gold income as a support. Obviously, support players make a lot less gold than other players, and that's because the way League of Legends has come to work is that you funnel all of your gold into 4 members, right? Because you only have, if you really think about how League of Legends works, there are only 4 sources of gold in the game. There are the 3 lanes, which have minions, and then the jungle, which has jungle monsters. And the jungle is really only big enough to support 1 player, so you only have 4 sources of gold. Now, originally, when Riot designed the game, this is supposed to exist. The idea being is that players would have to try and figure out how best to manage their gold income to get the biggest bang for their buck. Ordinarily, this would work, but eventually, Fnatic at the Season 1 Worlds figured, hey, why would we bother splitting gold between 2 players when we could pick a champion that will be relevant without large amounts of gold and just have them babysit a champion that could use all the gold and which also requires additional early game support. Hence the start of the AD carry support meta. And so this exists. Basically, you have one champion that makes next to nothing and has to subsist on a mediocre income while supporting the rest of their team. I kind of disagree with Mendler that this is a problem. I think that support income as a whole is generally alright. However, I will say that it's if you're ahead or if you're going even, it's usually not a problem. I feel like as a support player, I generally will always have enough for my items. In fact, I usually hit full build before my my allies, which maybe that's a problem in and of itself. But gold income, I don't think from that angle is much of a problem. Now, when you're behind, though, trying to subsist on a support income can be a bit of a bear. So I don't necessarily agree that's a big problem, but it is certainly an issue that Mendler posited. The second thing he mentioned was recognition of success. I think this is the biggest problem plaguing the support class, because currently the way support works, the things support players do, they ward, they heal, they shield, they peel, they do these things, but the problem is that the game is not actually set up to reward any of these things being done. When you get, when Ezreal gets the game-winning pentakill, it flashes up on the screen, right? Ally pentakill. Ezreal's name is there. Everyone, GJ in chat. It's a huge deal. Orianna hits a clutch shockwave. You see the damage. You see everyone, everyone's health bars drop. People will probably make a note of that. They follow up. That's great. You feel great. Playing someone like Nasus and you kill 6 towers in a game, constantly backdooring. There's tangible evidence of that fact. There are the callouts in the game. There's all sorts of satisfaction that can be had in these roles. Now, with support, the issue is that nothing comes up. In fact, there are actually a couple plays at Worlds that were plays of the game that the support had where I couldn't find the game. I tried to find it, but I believe it was TSM, Jhin got caught out, and he's about to die to a Syndra ult, and his support Braum flashes, dashes, and gets his shield up in time to block the rest of the Syndra ult and save his AD carry's life. It was a fantastic play. If you could find it, please let me know, because I would love to watch it again. But that's the kind of thing, that's a great support play, but there's no call-out for it. The game will not let you know that you did the right thing there, that you did a great play. There's no satisfaction to be had. Same thing if you had a 5-man peel with Janna, or if you had a massive heal with Soraka, or if you did if you tanked a bunch of damage for your allies. There's no satisfaction to be had from that because the game doesn't tell you, and it doesn't even appear in the post-game stats. Now, things like Ward's place does, but even that has some problems. For example, if you get a game-winning pick off a ward you place in the enemy jungle, the game won't point that out. The game won't say, oh, you had this great ward. And not only that, but your allies won't notice. They'll see that the guy's out of position, and they'll ping him, and they'll go to make the play. But after all is said and done, no one will remember who placed the ward to that set up that play. And that's a big problem, I think, because supports make all these plays, they do all these thankless tasks, and they receive nothing for their efforts, no applause, no satisfaction, except for whatever they can have, internally. And that's all fine and dandy. I think that, if I make a great play of support, I'm just happy with myself, but it's a far cry from what other roles can do when they have, a tower killing spree as Nasus, or if they, they land a game-winning ult, or that kind of thing. That's number one, I think, in the priority to fix in terms of fixing the support role. The third bit Mendler was talking about is itemization. He was mostly saying that, our support items sufficiently compelling, the power progression feel worse as supports based on other roles. And I don't necessarily disagree with him. In fact, actually, I do disagree with him, sorry. Because I think that itemization for support is pretty good right now. Back in the day, a lot of support power was tied up in aura purchases, buying things like Zeke's Herald, or the Randuin's Frozen Heart, or Shirelia's Reverie, those kinds of things that just gave passive benefits to everyone nearby, and you just kind of walked around being an aura bot. And that wasn't very much fun. And nowadays, a lot more of supporting is about being good with your items. You have a lot of activated items, but it does contribute meaningfully to feeling like you're helping your team. And now I think part of the issue might be that you don't feel as though you're necessarily scaling your own power, I should say. So when I'm Syndra and I finish my Luden's Echo, I feel measurably powerful. I see more damage happening. I get the pop of a Luden's going off, and that feels great. And meanwhile, supports don't really have that kind of power progression. Unfortunately, they just kind of have, oh, well, I can use this to make better plays, but they don't really have anything else. So, so that might be a problem. I disagree with Mendler that that's really a big problem. It's not like he necessarily said it was a big problem, but I do disagree that it's one of the bigger problems facing the support role as a whole. Then he talked about pregame. I really don't think that that's too much of a deal, especially given that supports are one of the two roles in the game that has the highest impact on the early game. As a support player, I feel like in the early game is kind of my time to shine. That's when I get to make plays. You're roaming, you're warding, you're doing things that make plays happen. Especially this game. You have the crit wandering around, you have Doublelift, or not Doublelift, Afromu wandering around and trying to make plays for their allies. So I do kind of disagree that that's a big deal, and that's something that needs to be worried about. And finally, laning patterns. I do feel like support matchup, the issue with support matchups in general is that they don't do very much in lane without their AD carry. And that's one of the problems with the support role, is that as a support, I want to make plays, but if I land a clutch bubble as Nami, or if I get, the God hook with someone like Thresh, I'm entirely dependent on my AD carry to follow up, because I can't make a play off of that. Meanwhile, if I'm someone like Syndra in the mid lane and I land a good stun, I can follow up on that. I'm the only one there, I can make a play happen. But if I'm Bard and I get a good stun, like right there, and there's no follow-up, my good play goes to waste. And there's no satisfaction generated, I don't even get the kill. That being said, I don't know if there's that much that Riot can do to fix that problem, because, unfortunately the way the game's shaped out, duo lanes are a thing, and there's only so much you can really do in a duo lane. Even if you were in top lane, right? If duo top lanes were a thing, you would still be dependent on having your second top laner following up on you making a good play, getting a hook as Darius, getting a good ult with Malphite, those kinds of things. So I don't really know that there's anything that Riot can do to solve that particular problem. I think it is a problem. I'm not sure if there's anything they can do, but it is still food for thought. But to kind of return to recognition of success, because I think that's the number one issue facing the support role, and I think that's where the most effort can be made. Number one, I think, is stats tracked, which could be difficult, but I think it's not necessarily impossible. Especially if after the game, if you're going through the stats, they have wards placed, which I think is good. But if you had things like ward uptime, maybe expanding ward stats, ward uptime, enemy champions spotted out on wards. I don't know, maybe enemy champions seen and then a ward, seen by a ward and then die shortly afterwards. Maybe if that's a stat they can track. I don't know how you would do that, but something along those lines. And secondly, measuring shields and heals, I think, is a big thing. Being able to say, Janna, in this game you healed, 8,000 health amount, throughout the game, or Janna, you shielded, 10,000 health throughout the game. That kind of a thing would be really, really cool to see in game, or in the stats. So now, obviously, this doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't fix in the game. You're able to look at the stats afterwards and say, wow, I did really, really well here. I shielded the hell out of my team. The biggest issue is how much damage it takes. Maybe you do damage blocked as opposed to just shielded. How much health you shielded, maybe damage blocked, so that way you have to actually get good shields. Maybe clutch heals. How many times did you heal an ally to save them from death? I think part of what they do, the passive on Phantom Dancer, that lets you know how many times you would have died if Phantom Dancer's damage reduction hadn't saved you. I almost wonder if you do something like that. I know there was talk of for Tarek's new ult to give him a passive that tracks how many times he saved his allies from death with the invincibility from his ultimate. And I wonder if you just don't make that a generic thing. If you add a buff to all supports that says, here's how many times you saved an ally with your shields. Or I wonder what if what you do instead is add like a screen flash or something with a champion took damage that should have killed them if not for a shield or a heal. Something along those lines. So that way the AD carry recognizes, oh man, that last shock blast would have killed me if I hadn't received that Bard heal, or if I hadn't received that Janna shield. I think that could go a long way towards helping satisfaction of supports. I think the other thing that could happen is on kill callouts, listing the champions that participated in the kill. Now, it does do that on the sidebar, but I would like to see it in the big banner across the screen, showing the portraits of champions that contributed to the kill underneath the person who actually did the kill. So sure, Ezreal's pentakill will show up on screen, but maybe having, the icons of the allies that assisted with the pentakill, or possibly having a penta assist shout out, something like that. Double assist, triple assist for, champions that participated with each kill in that multi-kill. Could also go a long way towards helping with support satisfaction and recognition that, yes, you made the plays. Now, I have been focusing a lot on shields and heals and that kind of thing, but it's because tanky supports, generally speaking, feel to me like they get the better end of the stick. A clutch blitzcrank hook on the enemy ADC, or a thresh hook, or, Leona keeping someone locked down for long enough for the kill, those are pretty well appreciated, I feel. Especially things like blitzcrank hooks. But a lot of things like Soraka heals and are not tracked very well, and they aren't satisfied very well, which is why I propose a lot of the changes I did. It would also be a lot harder to track, how many, maybe hook percentage for like aggressive champions, how many times you landed your all-in ability, maybe something along those lines. Could be interesting to see. But at any rate, that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about today concerning the support article that Mendler wrote. And if you guys have any ideas of your own about how maybe to fix the support role and thereby fix the League of Legends queue system, I'd love to hear it. You can get in contact with me on Tumblr via the Grab the Lantern blog. Alternatively, drop a comment down below the video. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you have any feedback about the video format as well, I would love to hear from you. This is kind of the first time I'm doing this, so I would greatly appreciate a little bit of feedback. Let me know if you want me to keep doing this, if there's maybe room for me to improve somewhere, and I will talk to all of you later.